Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Lead Up for Women, Speak Up to Lead Up. We are on episode 124. I can't believe it. I say that every week. I'm so blessed to be able to have the opportunity to interview such powerhouse women and females that are really making changes in the world. And today we're going to be talking a lot about how you can be the change that you want to see in the world. And I actually, if you go to Hobby Lobby or a lot of these stores, you'll see little signs that say that. And I have one of those in my bathroom. So, and the reason why I have it in my bathroom is so that when I'm making my frequent trips during the day into the restroom, it's right in front of my face. And it reminds me every single time I go in there to be the change that I want to see in the world, because we can't wait for other people to make those changes. Again, I'm Colleen Biggs, your host. You can find everything about me and our company, Lead Up for Women, at leadupforwomen.com. We have a ton of events coming up and so many wonderful places for you to connect with other women, be seen, be heard, and be visible. That's what it's all about. And that's why we're here in the podcast today, is to help another female entrepreneur be seen, be heard, and be visible, and share her genius with you so she can motivate, inspire, and educate you today. And today we're speaking with Angela K. Pearson. She's also an author, which is awesome. I am too. So I'm really excited to dive in with her. This is the first time Angela and I are meeting, which is not normal. Normally, I know who I'm interviewing. I've met them before. So I told Angela when she first popped on, I'm really excited to get to know you today because I've read through your biography and some of your other pieces that you sent me. And I really am just interested to chat with you and get to know you. So let me tell you a little bit about her before I bring her on. She's passionate about her family. Check. Her and I have that in common. She's a devoted mother of 3 and enjoys helping her children discover their talents, whether that's wrestling, music, martial arts, a business goal, or themselves. She considers her children to be her biggest accomplishment. Aside from her health and happiness, she makes it a priority that they understand their basic human rights and encourages them to lead their lives with a moral compass. Angela is a holistic enthusiast for 20 years. She holds a bachelor's degree in behavioral science and community health. She believes that earning her degree is a bonus in her life, but it's not what defines her. I love that so much. Being informed on vaccine ingredients and their direct effects, she opted out of the CDC's vaccine scheduled program. Her daughter and youngest son never received any vaccinations and are perfectly healthy. So she's a lifestyle mentor and entrepreneur, like I said, and I believe she wrote a book that I'm seeing here for children who have the known sting of rejection and ostracism from parents who decided against vaccinations, which is I Am Not Contagious. Did I get that right, Angela?
You did.
Okay.
You did. It was absolutely beautiful.
Good. I have no problems talking about vaccinations, yes or no, or this is a show where, and everyone knows me, I don't hold back. I say what I feel. I believe in God. I talk about God a lot. Other people may not, or call him a different name. I talk about God. And on my show, we can have that opportunity to have that fluid conversation. So talk to me. Let's go way back, because I talked a little bit about your bio, what you've done, but really becoming a mother changes you as a person. Wouldn't you agree, Angela?
Absolutely. I mean, it changes your whole trajectory and like how you perceive life, how you perceive everything that comes at you. And when it's just you're just thinking about yourself, I mean, you tend to have like these selfish tendencies, and that's okay. That's natural. That's what we do as human beings. But when we have children, we tend to take things from our parents that we absolutely, respected. But then there's other things that, the way our parents brought us up, maybe we want to break a certain cycle. So we tend to kind of like leave that alone. But that is where self-reflection comes into play. That's when understanding like, how we were raised, what needs to be, how we need to parent our children, that our parenting style, that's how it all comes into play, right? Mm-hmm. Now, some of us, we have like a hard time breaking those cycles. But then some of us, we don't have a problem with breaking them. They come with ease. And, you talk about God, and I've been inconsistent with my faith, if I must be honest. And since writing this book, I actually wrote this book pre-COVID, and I am now starting to rebuild my relationship back with God. And I think I'm just in a different place in my life. And as you know, like when you have a relationship with God, it takes you to another level, a sense of calm, a sense of peace. And I couldn't be happier as to where my life is leading, because I get to take my children on that journey as well. And growing up, going back to that, I didn't have much of a voice. My parents raised us in a way where children's voices were not necessarily important. We were seen and not heard. And so I didn't really feel like I had much of a voice growing up. And that kind of put me in certain predicaments that were not safe as a child, because adults were always right. And that's what I was taught. And that even if a child was right, we were to close our mouths because our voices didn't matter. Mm-hmm. So with my son being banned from public schools, I felt like as a parent, I needed to amplify his voice and be his voice, and to show him that his voice matters by validating his feelings. Because his feelings and his perspective on vaccinations, they're a lot different than mine. I tend to take it to a scientific level, like most of us adults do, and that's okay. But as a 6-year-old child, which he was going into the first grade, his heart is so innocent, and the way he perceives things is a lot different than the way you and I would. And the only thing that he knew is that he couldn't go to school and be with his friends. He didn't understand why he couldn't go to school, but he can take gymnastics and be with his friends. He can go to the park and be with his friends. He can go to the YMCA and be with his friends, but he couldn't go to school and be with his friends.
How interesting is that? Because I can sit on an airplane and I have to wear a mask, but I can go to the movies and someone sits right next to me and we don't have masks on. It's insane. None of it makes sense to me. So to back us up a little bit and tell us, because there's a piece of the puzzle missing here. Tell us about your 6-year-old son. What was your reason why you chose not to vaccinate your children? Where did it come from? When was that choice made? And then what happened with the school district?
A lot of people attack our holistic approach to vaccinations because they don't have the whole scope of our stories. And a lot of us, who tend to take the holistic route to vaccinations, many of us have a bad experience with one of them. And I have an older son, he'll be 25 this year, and he did have an adverse reaction to one of his vaccines in his first year of life. So he was hospitalized for 3 days. His pediatrician had said that it was related to the vaccine. It was normal. This happens all the time. It was a normal side effect. I take him to the ER. The ER doctor didn't think that it had anything to do with any of the vaccinations. And I was a 17-year-old mother at the time. And I don't think that age is really a factor in this, because we're brainwashed, right, into thinking that doctors know best and we have to listen to what they say. But in reality, a pediatrician or a medical doctor, they don't go to school and learn about vaccinations. They're just given a CDC schedule and they have to follow their guidelines. And if they don't follow those guidelines, they're going to get ostracized in the medical community, just like we're seeing a lot of the medical doctors and scientists today who are speaking out against these COVID injections. And they get a really bad reputation. Yeah. But this kind of led me down my holistic journey. It actually opened my mind to listen to new alternatives. So I kind of went science geek and I started researching vaccine ingredients. I started researching the ingredients in foods. I really wanted to get, I just remember so my daughter, I remember when her father came home I had actually had all of our food in boxes. And I said, we're getting rid of all of our foods. We're donating it. I mean, I really wanted to just throw everything away, but I know that there are like hungry people out there, and I know that they would just appreciate it all together and, wouldn't care about the ingredients in the food or not. But we donated all of our foods and we went strictly organic from that point forward. Because I learned so much about the ingredients in foods. I learned so much about the ingredients in vaccinations, or in vaccines rather. And it makes you look at things in life a lot differently. It makes you question the FDA. It makes you question doctors. It makes you question, everything that's being regulated. And even the government.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I see why you're explaining that, because it makes complete sense. I had a daughter-in-law who had an adverse reaction to a vaccination and actually wound up winning a lawsuit for tens and thousands of dollars, just short of, six figures, for her being in the hospital and practically on her deathbed till they figured out what was wrong. And it was an adverse reaction she had to a vaccine. So she won't take any more vaccinations that are being administered. And it's sad because there's so many regulations right now for places you can't go or things you can't do unless you have that vaccination. I mean, I have been very vocal about I have no intention of putting a vaccination in my body that I know nothing about. I don't get a flu shot. I don't do any of that. I'm a very healthy person. My husband and I were vegan for a long time. We eat organic. And I have several clients that are in the medical field, and a couple of them are pharmacists. And I don't know if many of people know this, but pharmacists go to school for medications and medicine. Mm-hmm. They know all about it. They spend thousands and thousands of clinical hours. A doctor spends one semester. So maybe, 600 hours or something. Maybe one semester is all they get. But if we look at when we go to the doctor, they administer medication to treat the symptom, but they're not really getting to the root cause of anything. And that's the epidemic that we have going on today, which is the billions of prescriptions that are being prescribed, right? And it's the medications that people are on, but it's because they are not educated. Maybe, Angela, they're lazy and don't want to educate themselves on figuring out. But I'm so happy that you did, because as parents, we're responsible for our children. And yes, I vaccinated my children 30 years ago, long time ago. I didn't know any different back then, and I can tell you, if one of my children would have had an adverse reaction, my life probably would have looked a lot different. And I really feel that, God gave you that adverse reaction for your son, for you to be able to capitalize on that opportunity and do something about it and be a voice in the world. Because I have friends that have lost their children to cancer, and it's because of that child that was an angel that had cancer. They now have made just huge changes and impacts in the world for families with children that have cancer, and they're changing the world. So it just takes one of us, one person, and your one son. It took one child to for you to then take that and run with it. So really, is that what inspired you to write the book, or was there a bigger cause behind that started after that point that brought you to be inspired to write the book that I'm not contagious?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was definitely another cause, because, now my son, he has systemic lupus. And like you said, I wonder, had I kept him up to date with his vaccinations, how severe would his condition be today? Because he was diagnosed with systemic lupus. This is my older son, the one who was vaccinated in his first year of life. But how severe would his systemic lupus be today? Because he was diagnosed with systemic lupus in 2016.
Is that, I'm sorry, your sound is getting a little bad. Was that systemic lupus?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Sorry, we couldn't hear you on our end. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
And so, that makes me wonder, if had I gone forward with vaccinations with my daughter and my youngest son, would they be affected today as well with systemic lupus? You have all of these ideas that kind of play around in your head, and you start questioning everything.
Yeah.
But when I wrote I Am Not Contagious, it was for my youngest son. Back in 2019, Andrew Cuomo, the governor then of New York, had removed religious exemption. And religious exemption, as you know, is something that gave parents like me who chose a holistic route to vaccinations, allowed us to have our children participate in the public school systems. And in 2019, when he removed religious exemption, I left my career to homeschool Grayson. And I went to this real estate boot camp. It was a 3-day boot camp out in Miami because I knew, okay, I have my 401k, but I need to make other means of income, right? So I went down there and something just didn't feel right with me. On the plane ride home, I was sitting beside these two large men, and that's when I had that epiphany where I was almost told I needed to write a book. I needed to be my child's voice. This is my opportunity to really amplify his story and to get his message out there for the world to hear, because it's not about me. I don't like being in the limelight. I don't like the attention. But I knew that it's not about me. It's much bigger. This is about my son and his story. And this has been just therapeutic for the both of us. And we started our journey and our relationship with God. And this story itself is about having compassion on issues that aren't fully understood.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody would understand or does understand my holistic approach to vaccinations. I mean, I hope after hearing my story and my concerns, especially with my older son having an adverse reaction, that they can understand why I chose the route that I did with my other two children and why I stopped my older son's vaccinations when I did. But this story, I Am Not Contagious, I wrote this pre-COVID, and then COVID obviously hit in March of 2020, and everything shut down, and my book was put on hold for an entire year. So I'm just now starting to promote it and to really get the message out there. But the great thing about this story is that it doesn't impose my belief, and it doesn't impose one belief over the other. What it does, it really just shows the compassion of an innocent 6-year-old little boy who just doesn't understand why he can't be with his friends and go to school when he can play with them everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But he also gives like these incredible life lessons. And he shares a story about one of his friends who is vaccinated. And he shares about how he understands how his friend's mother loves him just the way I love him. So both of us love our kids no matter what, and we both want to protect our children no matter what, and we both think that we're doing what is best for our children. And I think in order to have unity, we have to first have compassion, and without open communication and without having compassion on issues that aren't fully understood, we're always going to have this division between us. And especially now more than ever with COVID, I've learned to choose my words better when I'm educating people about these injections, because I don't want to offend anyone, because I do have friends who are participating in this experiment, and that is their choice. So I want to be very mindful of their decision without disrespecting them. So I had to go back and I had to reword some of my posts and reword some of the things that I was saying, because they felt like I was attacking them. And I didn't want them to think that at all, because I'm just so passionate about this. But I listened. I closed my mouth and I listened to what my friend had to say when she approached me about this. And I swallowed my pride, because sometimes our ego gets in our way and we think that we know best. Everybody wants to be right and nobody wants to be wrong.
Right.
So I dialed everything back. I went back and I was looking at everything and looking at how I was wording everything. And I was like, wow, I can see how someone might feel like I'm attacking them. And my book, I Am Not Contagious, my son's story, that's exactly the message that we're trying to get across. You know, it's having that compassion for other people.
Absolutely. And I'm going to ask everyone to have compassion with our sound that we're having issues with right now. Angela had some difficulties this morning, but she's with us and we're happy that she's with us today and was able to make the interview through her phone. So just hang in there with us. If you need to turn your sound up a little bit to be able to hear a little bit better, it's just coming through a little bit soft, but you have so much to say, Angela, that is so good. I want everyone to hang in there with us and not give up on it because the sound, you know, sometimes people get a little bit, you know, they just get impatient with sound, but you have so much to say. So I want them to hang in there because you can still hear her. Just turn up the sound and I'll make sure I talk a little bit softer. But, you know, I think I know what you said is right, Angela, which is if we want respect for the choices that we make, then we need to be able to give the respect to others for the choices that they make. And so without judgment, right? Some choose to participate, some choose not to participate because of what has happened to you. Your life has changed. What has happened to your son? It educated you. You want to educate others so they can make the right choice for themselves and their family. And I'm assuming that there's so much more that you're planning on doing that is much bigger than just, I'm assuming the book is just a tiny little piece of the movement that you've created on the change. So talk to us a little bit about what's next. What are you working on for the changes that you want to make? And then I would love to know, because I'm sure other listeners might want to jump on that movement with you or have a conversation with you because they want to know how they can assist because they believe in exactly what you believe in.
Absolutely. So when and after I finished writing the book, I realized that there was still so much more that Grayson didn't understand, and that was our basic human rights. And so in the back of the book, there is a crossword puzzle. But anyone who takes advantage of getting a free copy of I Am Not Contagious, they're going to get a free Freedom Warrior training video, and they're also going to get a Crusaders workbook, okay, Crusaders Tactics workbook, a free coloring book, everything that teaches children. It's an introductory to their basic human rights. And another thing that I'm working on is really educating people on forming private membership associations and private education associations. Now, what this does is that it removes government interference. And I'm actually doing this year because I do homeschool and I have been homeschooling since 2019. I am removing my son from the school district entirely. So I no longer have to submit quarterly reports to them. I no longer have to get permission from them. I no longer have to take him to go get proctored exams or tests from the schools because there's so much going on in our education system that I do not want to teach my child. So that is number one. That is the private education association. And then the private membership association are for businesses, okay? And you mentioned Hobby Lobby earlier, and Hobby Lobby actually files under a private membership association. These have been around for 200 years, and so many people are not aware of them, but they were put in place to protect people like me and you against corrupt government. These private membership associations, I'm going to give you an example. If you want to sell liquor out of your home, or if you have a building on your property that you own, you do not need a liquor's license. You don't need permission from the liquor authority. You don't need permission from the government to sell liquor. And I use that as an example. I'm not a drinker, but I use that as an example because I know a lot of people who own restaurants, and that was one of their big questions. I have a bar, and am I going to be able to still sell liquor? Yes, you are. And you don't need permission from the government. And I think when we are in the school system, we're brainwashed into thinking that that's exactly what we have to do. We have to file under an LLC. We have to file under an S corp. But when we do this, we are actually giving up a part of our company to the government. We are essentially telling them that they can own a part of our company, which is why and how they can control us and shut us down whenever they so choose to. I mean, and just look at New York City and what's happening there. And especially when they had the mask mandate and when the pandemic first came out, businesses were folding and closing because they were being forced to. And they lost a lot of money, and that was a way for them to put food on the table for their families. So we have to take back control. This is how we take back control. You know, we stop asking permission from the government and we learn the tricks of the trade so that we can thrive the way God intended us to thrive. And you know, another thing that I'm learning that there's two legal systems. There's the book of law, which is the Bible, and then there's the man-made legal system, which is the government. Okay, obviously we have to answer to someone, you know, that we can't be rebels and just not have any rules or any laws or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But you and I, we believe in God. We know that He exists and He is the law. He gave us instructions, a book about this big, instructions on how we are supposed to thrive and how we are supposed to live. And that holds true with medicine. He knew that there were going to be sicknesses and illnesses. He knew that. So He gave us shrubs and herbs and trees so that we can form medicinal alternatives for our bodies, not synthetic, man-made products that are going to long-term affect us and create cancers within our bodies. And churches too. I really, really want churches to really understand that they too have a way to thrive in when there's corrupt government. And that is to file under a 508c1a. So right now, a lot of churches are filing under a 501. And because they're filing a 501, just like when you file your business under an LLC or S Corp, you are giving your church to the government, and that is why they can dictate what you can and cannot preach. Mm-hmm. So we have to be very mindful. And I just want, if we just know like these little pieces of information and that we can share it and branch out, and they share and they share and they share, think about what we are actually doing for ourselves as a whole. We are taking control and we are taking back not just our country, but our God-given rights.
Absolutely. If you want to see change in the world, for the changes that you want to make, you have to be that change. You can't sit back and wait for someone else to do that. You have to file differently for your business. The churches have to file differently. If you want to truly be free and have the freedom and the independence, which we see a lot of those are being stripped from us. Churches, you know, they told us when we could preach, when we couldn't worship. There was so much going on, and taking away the schools and the kids away from other kids, taking away worship buildings. I'm not for that at all. And we, as to thrive as a community, and I love that so many individuals are stepping up, are forming memberships, are coming together in communities to make the changes, and they are being the change that they want to see in the world, so that we have more independence, so that parents have choices, whether they want to homeschool their children or enroll them in a school district if they choose to, whether they're vaccinated or not. And the vaccination is such a minute piece of this. It's almost like an underlying conversation in this. It's much bigger than that. And I hope that those of you that are listening understand that we have to start today. You can't wait for someone else to make the changes for you and sit back and just wait and hope that something will change. And so many individuals have gone into scarcity, they're had their anxiety, they're into depression, they've changed their habits. They're scared to even go back out in the world because turn off the TV, by the way, everybody. Just turn it off. Don't even listen to it anymore. It's not worth it. There's nothing out. Trust me, I haven't had the TV on in a year. I've missed nothing. I have missed nothing. I'm still operating my business. Things are still moving along. I'm still meeting people. I'm still able to thrive. Just turn it off. Think about what you're putting in your body. Make the choices that you want to make for your family. And if there's a hurdle there, figure it out how to get over that hurdle. Connect with people like Angela. I mean, she's a great example of someone that you can connect with if you want to learn how to do this for yourself. So Angela, many listeners might be thinking, yeah, I want to do that, or I want to be part of that, or I'm scared to make that change because the government's going to come after me. This is all the real stuff that goes on out there, right? Mm-hmm. They're afraid because they're afraid of the government, which seems to be this scary pit of endless scary people. Let me just say that. We'll leave it at that. I'm not going to get into any of my beliefs when it comes to politics, but we can all see that there's been a lot of changes in the world in the last couple of years. So you either are okay with it or you aren't. And if you aren't, or if you want to make some changes in the world, you can connect with Angela. And how do they do that, Angela?
They can go to my website, www.angelapearson.com. I also have a link there where they can click on, and that'll take them right to my Facebook page. That's probably the easiest. And I do have Instagram. I'm trying to get on there a bit more. Like I said, I'm not a person who likes to be in the limelight, but I do make posts. And actually, one of my older Instagram accounts was, obviously, I was censored because I was putting too much information on there. So I'm slowly rebuilding my new Instagram account, and that is AngelaK.Pearson. You can find me on Instagram at AngelaK.Pearson. And that's just the dot. It's not spelled out or anything like that. And then on Facebook, you can just, Angela Pearson, you'll see a picture of me with my glasses, and you'll see a picture of my book, I Am Not Contagious. But yeah, go to my website, www.angelapearson.com.
Awesome.
That's probably the best way.
Well, we'll have all of the information. If you're listening on the podcast right now, you'll have it at your fingertips. If you're watching this on our Facebook page, Lead Up for Women, which we always recommend you head over there to watch the videos so you can see who you're listening to. And we'll have all the description in there as well for all of you to click on. Just get in her community, get to know her, grab her book, share it with your children if you have children, if not, your grandchildren. Or even get it for yourself to educate yourself and read it. I just think it's a great start for someone who does want to make a change in the world, but they're afraid and they don't know how to take the first step. And I understand there's fear. And I understand, Angela, that you don't want to be in the limelight. Unfortunately, you're the leader in this movement, and you're leading by example. So we will follow you as much as you're ready to lead in that area. So that's why we need your guidance.
You're speaking of leadership, and I have to say, my son, who's now 8 years old, he really surprised me, and he really took a hold of leadership. I mean, he is a definition of leadership. I couldn't be more proud. I was going to hire someone to do the audio of the book, and he looked at me and he said, "Why would you do that, Mom? That's my voice." And I said, "Oh my goodness, you're absolutely right. You should do the audio." So he was super excited, and he did the audio of I Am Not Contagious. And you get to hear his compassion in his voice and his enthusiasm as he's taking you on his journey and through his life. And when anyone takes advantage of getting a free copy of I Am Not Contagious, they're also going to get a free behind the scenes video of how Grayson made the audio for the book.
That's so great. And can they get that free copy on your website or through your Facebook? How do we get that copy?
They can either go straight to my website, or if they want to go straight to the book, they can go to angelapearson.com/book.
Okay. Yeah. And I'll have those links available for everyone as well.
And
Awesome.
also, anyone looking for like a religious exemption, especially now more than ever, we're being threatened. Our jobs are being threatened. Our education is being threatened. If you have any children who are in college and they're being forced to be inoculated and take this, there are loopholes. Sometimes I can't guarantee you anything, but we are striving, and we're looking to help people if they need religious exemptions. There's a woman by the name, she's an amazing freedom warrior advocate. Her name is Rita Palma. And you can go to mykidsmychoice.com. There are resources there on that website that will help as well for those who need religious exemptions for work, college, and the military.
Good to know. Thank you so much, Angela. She's got great words of wisdom today that she's sharing with us about how we can be the change that we want to see in the world. And I'm not asking you to, get out of your comfort zone and rise up and create a movement and go, storming the Capitol. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is make one step in the direction. Don't hold your tongue anymore. Share what you want to share. Everyone who's interviewed on their deathbed, and Angela may not know this, the one common factor that people say when they're interviewed as they're dying is, I wish I just would have said the things I wanted to say or did the things I wanted to do in my life, not realizing how soon it would be cut short. So you don't know when your life is going to end. You don't know when you need to exit the train. So when they're asking you and telling you at your stop. So if you're riding the train of life, choose which train you want to be on. That's what I'm saying to you. Just choose which train you want to be on. You have a choice in the changes that you make in the world. It's why I started Lead Up for Women. It's why I give women a voice so they can be amplified to make the changes that they're wanting to impact the world. So Angela, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was a wonderful interview. Technical issues or not, it was a great interview and you're a wonderful individual. And thank you so much for having the bravery and the courage and bringing your children along on that journey with you and educating them so that they can make a choices as adults. Because we have to remember, if we continue to raise our kids exactly the way we were raised, which was exactly the way our grandparents were raised, it's insanity if we're doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We must change the way we're doing things. So be the change you wish to see in the world today. Contact Angela and remember, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that will ever be. There is no other person out there for you. It's you. You have to make the change. So until next time, be you and be strong. And thank you again, Angela, for being with us today. Everyone have a wonderful week. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.